Good afternoon. Chelsea Collie here. I hope this reaches you well. We are live with the amazing Miss Kimberly Palm. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, Chelsea. Thank you so much for having me on your channel.
Thank you for being here. Let me just make sure it's showing up. And then we will get started. Yep, we're good.
Did you have a nice Christmas?
It was.
That's good.
Yeah, it was a nice Christmas. We hosted it here at our house. So it's a little bit stressful, not too bad. But we didn't have to go anywhere. So that was good.
Yep. Awesome. We kind of hid in our house because it was literally below zero temperatures and a snowstorm and the whole 9 yards. So we kind of were trapped inside our house. Yeah.
You have a lot of, so how much snow do you guys have?
Oh my God, probably at least 3 feet, at least.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm super excited to talk to you today. We're talking about your new book, Walking with Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. And it is so good. I'm not through it yet, but I'm through about almost half of it. So I'm through about 80 pages of it. And God, it's just really, really, really good. I love learning.
On my phone. Wait a second. Let's see if they can see it. I don't know if they can see it. That's the cover of it because I don't have it behind me, but that's the cover. And the picture was actually, I had picked out a totally different picture that I really liked. And my best friend found out that if I use that picture that I would get lawsuited for tons of money. So she created the picture for my cover. She made that.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
And I really love it. Like it's really, really good book. And like I told you, I could have like zoomed through the whole thing yesterday, but I'd rather like go through it and take notes and like absorb it all. So that's why I think we'll do like maybe a part 1 and a part 2, where we can talk about the first several chapters today. Okay, yeah. Awesome. I'm so excited to learn more about Jesus, Yeshua, and Mary Magdalene because they've hidden so much from us.
Yeah, they hid all of it, actually. They hid, I mean, what they give people don't have any clue that the information they give us, first of all, was twisted and changed hundreds of times over. And second of all, they only give a tiny bit of the original information to begin with. It's just a small speck of it. So they hid all the rest. They got rid of it. They burned a lot of it. They got rid of so much. So
your book really, it really makes everything make a lot of sense. You know, it ties in, you even tie in like some scripture, like talking about like the kingdom of heaven that Jesus was referring, or Yeshua was referring to, actually within us. That's a super interesting topic.
Yep.
Awesome. Yep. Well, okay. So the first chapter, you kind of talk about like where this info came from. And basically you have a connection straight with Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. So you've pretty much channeled this book. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it wasn't channeled. So let me explain the difference to people between channeling and what I do. So channeling is when I'm sitting here and talking and all of a sudden stuff starts coming out of my mouth and it's not coming from me, Kimberly, it's coming from somebody else, or it's coming into my mind. It's, kind of going through me, but it's not me. It's like they take over your body when you're channeling. It's like you're being kind of taken over, you're being, the stuff is just coming through. I guess you're kind of like a vessel, and it's just flowing through you. In this case, that's not how the book worked. How the book worked was I sat and had a conversation with them and I asked them 5 million questions. And then I took pages and pages and pages of notes. And then I combined it with my memories because I was there. So I took what memories, I don't have all my memories back. I've got part of my memories back. And I'm hoping soon that I'm going to get the rest of my memories back. But until then, I took what memories I had And then I combined it with the answers they gave me when I asked them all the questions. And the reason I'm able to talk to them is I was born with psychic abilities. My mother was psychic. My grandma was psychic. My great grandma was psychic. It goes back hundreds and hundreds of years in my family. All the women on my mom's side are born with claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, prophetic ability. We can see future events, stuff like that. And so starting back when I was a little girl, I started having conversations with them, like I was a really little girl. And I have a lot of really radical Christians who'll come after me and say, oh, you're a demon, or you're talking to demons, or how do you know you're not talking to demons? Well, how I know is because everything that comes from them is pure love. It's 100% love. There's zero fear. There's no fear. There's no evil. There's nothing malevolent in what they say. They speak very lovingly, and everything that I learn and everything they say to me is 100% loving. There's never anything bad or scary or negative or fearful. And that's how you discern the difference between, is it coming from a demonic entity or is it coming from Christ? Because when it's coming from Christ or Mary Magdalene or Mother Mary or God, creator source, the message is always going to be love. And Satan and Lucifer will tell you 99 truths to get in one lie. So how you'll know that it's Satan is you will hear all this wonderful, oh, this is nice, that's nice. And all of a sudden this fearful thing will sneak in there. So like you'll hear 5 or 6 things that sound really wonderful. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm talking to Jesus, and then all of a sudden one day they're like, oh, sacrifice your son for me, or something like that. Or you'll hear, go kill yourself, or go, you'll hear something negative will sneak in there to get you, that, because you've been believing all along that you were talking to that being. So now you're going to believe them when they tell you something evil and malevolent. You're going to do it. So that's how you know that it's the enemy and not our friends on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Okay, well, so you talk about like your purpose, that you have like kind of several purposes to bring back the divine feminine and bring back the original teachings of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, and continue their work, and then also bringing back these ancient Essene teachings and practices on earth. And that I was telling you how important your purpose is, because that is so important. And I started learning about the Essenes actually through Dolores Cannon, reading that book, which I can't think of what it's called right now.
It's called Jesus and the Essenes.
That one.
I think I have it right here actually behind me, but yeah.
Yeah, she actually, so if you're not familiar with Dolores Cannon, but I think a lot of us are, but she actually channeled, or she went through hypnotism, and this man's story came through, who was actually like a teacher in this Essene community in Qumran. And that's where, as you mentioned in your book, that the Dead Sea Scrolls were found as well, is through Qumran.
Yeah.
So like that's actually where Christianity comes from, and how they've twisted it so much. So maybe you just want to tell us a little bit about like who are the Essenes?
So the Essenes, Essene is not like a religion per se, because they mix. First of all, you don't have to be a specific religion to be part of the Essenes. Some of the Essenes were Jews, some of them were pagans, some of them were other religions or sects that they had back then, Buddhist, Hindu. There are a lot of that. In Qumran, particularly, most of the Essenes were Jews, but there were also others that were part of that came into the Essenes, because you had to come in by invitation, and then you had to go through like years of classes, like school, like education, and you had to graduate that program. And a lot of them came in that were pagan or other, no religion, like they had no religion, they had no belief systems, and they went through the the training, but it was basically a spiritual community, like a spiritual commune. And Qumran was like the main like center or like the headquarters for the Essenes, because when they were created by the prophet Elijah, I believe. I could be mixing up the names, but I'm pretty sure it was the prophet Elijah. When he created them thousands of years ago, it was created in that area of Israel near the Sea of Galilee. That's where it was created. So that's the headquarters, but there were Essene branches in India and Essene branches in China and Essene branches in Tibet and Essene branches in South America. I mean, they were all over the world. The Vikings up in the Nordic area, there was an Essene branch. The Druids also had an Essene branch in Glastonbury, huge Essene branch. In fact, Saint Joseph of Arimathea, who was the great uncle of Yeshua, he owned tin mines in Glastonbury and land in Cornwall and Glastonbury, UK. And there was a big Essene community there going all the way back, couple thousand years or more before Christ was born, because Essenes go back like 3,000 whatever plus years. So so they're all over the world. And so it's basically a spiritual community, and they mix in the teachings of Atlantis, the laws of one, the teachings of Atlantis and Lemuria, laws of one, some of the ancient like Hindu kind of teachings and Buddhist teachings, all that kind of stuff was all kind of mixed together, because those are philosophies, not as much like religion. Like the three major religions that were created, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, were actually created by the Cabal. They were created by the Cabal to control humans, whereas Buddhism was not created by the Cabal to control humans. Buddhism was created by the Buddha and himself. He started the whole Buddhism, which is all about self, enlightenment and self-realization, and becoming enlightened, and kindness and compassion and forgiveness. And what's interesting is there's a book called Buddha. Actually, I found out that there's like 30 or more books about Buddha and Jesus, comparing their teachings and their lives and everything. And they really taught almost the same stuff. So Buddha was almost like the ascended master predecessor to Sananda Yeshua. So it's kind of interesting. But the Essene community, you couldn't just go and join that community. You had to be invited in. And I wrote a whole chapter talking all about what they ate, how they lived, what they practiced, what the schooling looks like, how Yeshua earned that white robe that he wore, because you had to earn the white robe. You're not just allowed to just wear a white robe. You had to earn the white robe. And you had to go through years of schooling to get to that point where you're initiated fully as an Essene, and you also become a priest in the order of Melchizedek, because a lot of them were trained in the priesthood of Melchizedek and in the priestesshood of Isis and that type of thing, because they also taught the ancient Egyptian mystery schools as well. That was all part of the Essene teachings as well. So, but they're basically a spiritual community, and they were practicing what everybody should be practicing. And what people don't understand is a lot of what Jesus was teaching when he walked the earth, his people, the Essenes, were already practicing and teaching all of those things for a couple thousand years. So they were the first Christians, because if you think about it, he got all his education on spirituality from them, and then he taught it, and then they based a church on that, right? So realistically, the Essenes were the first Christians.
Right. And they were healers, and also
they were healers.
Astrology, yes.
Astrology, Zoroastrianism was like part of the foundation when the religion, or I mean, when the community of Essenes first started. It was a lot of Zoroastrianism, which came from Persia, Iran, Iraq, all those areas back then. A lot of the areas that are now Islam, they were Zoroastrian at one time, and Zoroastrians used astrology. That was a big part of it. So astrology was a huge part of the Essene world and Essene teachings, also numerology as well, and a lot of other types of things like that. So yeah, and that is how, and I even talk in the book about how the Magi supposedly found Yeshua, because there's been a lot of debate about that. So
That's exactly what I was going to say. Hence the three kings. The three
Yeah, the
kings
three kings. Mhm.
apparently visited baby Jesus.
Yeah.
Those were Zoroastrian
They're
magic.
magi. Yeah. Yeah. And Yeshua actually had a previous incarnation as a magi. So that's how they found him. They knew ahead of time that this guy was coming to the earth. They knew ahead of time where he was going to be born. They even know who the mother was going to be. In fact, the Essene community knew all this ahead of time too. They all knew Mary was going to be the chosen one to give birth to this child. They all knew that ahead of time. So it was all predestined.
Yeah, and that was super interesting. You said that Jesus had been incarnated already 3 times before
Yeah.
he came as Jesus, right?
Yeah. Or was it 2, 3? Yeah. Something like that. A few times. I think it was, yeah.
Like maybe
Yeah.
being Jesus Yeshua was his
Yeah.
third time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's all super interesting. So you can get the book. I should put the link in the comments.
Yeah, I have his whole timeline in there. I go through the entire timeline and I go back to his ancestry through his DNA, his bloodline. But I also talk about his previous incarnations before he became Yeshua. And I mean, just to give a little, to blow a little bit of info, what do you call it? I'm giving what do you call it, a sneak peek or whatever you want to call it. His soul name was Sananda. That's his soul name. So when he isn't in, when he was born into a human body, his parents named him Yeshua ben Yosef with a Y. There was no J in Hebrew or Aramaic back then. In fact, the letter J wasn't even created in any language until the 1500s. There was never a letter J. So people will always harass me about that and go, oh, well, then where did they get the name Jews from? Well, I can tell you where they got the name Jews from. They weren't called that until like the 1800s. Up until the 1800s, they were called the Hebrews or the Israelites, or something like that. They were never called the Jews. The word Jew didn't even come about until like the 1800s or something. It took a long time before that name started, to show up. And yeah, everybody thinks, oh, letter J. Well, there was no letter J, people. It didn't exist. And guess what? Letter J still does not exist in the Hebrew language, still does not exist in Greek language. And in a lot of these languages, Aramaic, a lot of the ancient languages still do not have to this day a letter J. Letter J was created by a cabal flacky guy that works for the royal, the queen and king and all that kind of thing of England. The what do you want to call it? The Windsors or whoever, basically. Yeah.
And why would it? I mean, why would they change a language?
Because they
was
use
the way.
words as spells, because it's all about dark magic and using dark magic to curse humanity and to control humanity and to disparage us. And so every time we speak words, you have to be really impeccable with your speech. That's actually one of the, what is it, the 5 agreements, I believe it's called, that book, or 4 agreements. Yeah, it's being impeccable with your speech. The thing is every word that you utter out of your mouth has energy, frequency, and vibration. And so there are some words that are actually curses. They're like, for example, the word understanding. You really should be saying understanding, because if you're understanding, then you're not standing. You're understand. It's a very negative word, and it's actually very harmful. There's a whole bunch of words in our English language that were created purposely in the English language to harm us, to actually harm our physical bodies, harm our lives, curse us and whatnot. Because in the ancient languages, none of these words ever existed that they've created in the English language, because the whole English language was created by the cabal. The entire English language was created by the cabal, because before it existed, all of the ancient languages didn't have these kind of words that curse people like this. The whole English language is an abomination, basically. It's a totally abomination to God, the entire English language. So,
Right.
yeah.
And you said that like what was it, Greek and Hebrew, they still don't have a letter J.
They still don't have a letter J. If you
I
go
was
to
just saying, why
Israel,
would
there's
they
no letter
change
J.
it? Like, they shouldn't change it, you know?
No, the Hebrews never, Israel, they never changed their alphabet and included a letter J. Why should they?
Right.
You know, his
Exactly.
name is
That's what I was
still,
saying. Why should they?
yeah. In fact,
Unless they
here's,
were meaning to mislead us,
yeah, it's to
try to
mislead
control us.
us and make us say words that are bad. And so, you know, another thing from my book that's important for people to know, and I actually show it in there, I show the gematria is the reason they made his name Jesus, which they didn't make his name Jesus until like the 1600s or 17 or 1800s. They didn't change it until they changed the Bible. They took the Bible again and changed it. They made it that because it's the same gematria, which is a number systems that the Kabbalah uses. They've been using the numerology and the number system for, you know, a long time. It's the same gematria as the name Lucifer. So if you read my book, you'll see, because I proved it, and I even have the link to the website. And just so you all know, in my book, I have links to all kinds of stuff. And I also have scripture throughout the book to prove all the information. I have a whole section where it's just one scripture after another to prove a lot of what I'm saying in the book. So if you're trying to say, oh, well, there's no proof of what Kimberly's saying, think again, because in the book, I actually have all kinds of proof of a lot of this stuff. Especially when you can look at the numbers, you can go to their gematrix calculator that was created by the Freemasons. By the way, the Freemasons created that. You can go right to their little Freemasonry calculator, and you can put in the name Jesus, and then write down the numbers like a, you know, nice person, write them down on a piece of paper, and then put in the name Lucifer, and then write those numbers down, and watch your mouth drop all the way to the floor so the flies can come in, because that's what will happen.
And Satan.
Yeah. And then Satan and Yesu. Okay. So in the Catholic Church, I was Catholic. I left the Catholic Church when I found out how evil it really is. In the Catholic Church, they use the name Yesu, Jesu, and they've used it for a long time. That word Jesu, Jesu, is the same gematria as Satan. The same gematria as Satan. He was never ever called that. Never called that. In fact, I have all of his names in the book. I have his nickname that the Essenes called him. He had a specific nickname, his soul name. All of that information is all in the book. Even the soul name of Mary Magdalene, who she is, who they both are. When you guys find out who they were, you're going to freak out. Who they used to be before they came into their bodies. If you found out who they really were, you're going to be amazed and shocked at the same time. Very, very powerful beings, deities, I guess you can call them in a way. They're sort of, you know, God, goddess, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because they had to come way down in density to come here.
Yeah, they definitely did. They had to come way down in density to join us. So just like I did, I had to do the same thing. You know, I came from the same place they came from, and I had to drop myself way down in density. Before I came to Earth, I was eighth, ninth density in Sirius B, which is where the family of Yeshua all came from. Everybody, and a lot of the apostles came from Sirius B. A lot of the apostles, a lot of the family of Yeshua, and even a lot of the disciples of Yeshua all came to this planet from Sirius B, which it's like think of it as the ascended master teacher area of the universe, because these are beings who are like eighth and ninth density, very high level spiritual, you know, beings that come here as teachers to teach all the stupid third density people on Earth how to ascend, you know. So
Yeah. And so you also say religions are man-made on Earth.
yeah,
And other
they don't
planets,
exist in
religion
space.
doesn't exist.
No. If you go to any planet out in space, you're going to find out they don't have Christianity. They don't have Judaism. They have something called the law of one. That's what all the beings in the universe go by. And even the angels go by the law of one. And it's very basic laws. And it's the kind of laws that Yeshua was teaching. The stuff he was teaching all came right out of the law of one playbook. Okay, the law of one playbook is what he was teaching. It's what the Essenes were teaching. Be kind to others, do unto others as you'd have done unto you, be compassionate, be loving, be forgiving. Do not mess with the free will of others. People keep saying, why did the ETs not come down here and rescue us? Why don't they stop us from being forced to get clot thingies and, poked, into us? And why did they not? Why did the angel or the angelic whatever ETs, why did they not come down here? Well, because they follow what's called the law of one. And one of the biggest precursors of that law or precepts or whatever you want to call it is do not mess with the free will of others. They can't interfere with our free will. They're not allowed to do that. We have to voluntarily ask them for help, all of us, before they can come. Now, if a majority of the people stood up and said, hey, ET guys, we need your help, get your butts down here now. If we said that, then they would come down. But until a bunch of us stand up and actually ask for that, they can't do anything for us. All they can do is clear out the bad ETs that don't belong here, because they messed with our free will. And so they can be the police, basically the interstellar police, and they can come in and they can get them and they can pluck them out of here because they've been enslaving the planet for 11,500 years. But they can't do anything for the humans living on the planet, because the humans living on the planet, we have our own rules and our own laws and our own this and that, and they can't interfere with our stuff. They're not allowed to do it unless we all ask them. We have to all stand up and ask them. So
yeah, so as you mentioned, Christianity, Judaism, Islam were created to control and enslave humans.
Yep.
Take away our ability to think for ourselves, take away our free will.
Yep.
Take our money, create duality and separation from God, create conflict, destruction, fighting, death, wars between humans. And they were created and run by a few men.
All men.
Where they removed the divine feminine, and they also made women second-class citizens. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Like, that is what they've done.
Yeah, they took away all of women's rights. They made us, we're lower than men. We're not as important as them. We shouldn't be paid as much. For a long time, women couldn't even read. Do you know that up until early 1900s, and even still today in parts of the world, like in Islamic countries, women are not allowed to read. They're not allowed to go to school even. I mean, look at the Taliban. They're not allowed to go to school. So women are still treated like dogs. In Islam, women are equal to, or actually less than dogs. Dogs are actually more important than women, So, these three religions were created to smash down the divine feminine, to basically erase the divine feminine from planet Earth, to control people, to keep people in a state of fear constantly. And the God that all three of those religions worship is not the God that I worship. I worship the God of unconditional love, who doesn't ask you to do things like sacrifice your firstborn and stuff like that. The God that they're worshiping, who destroys cities and destroys armies and kills people and asks you to sacrifice your child, and that is jealous and they say, oh, God is a jealous God, and he's a this and that. All the descriptions of their God describe Lucifer and Satan. Okay, so that's who the whole Bible is devoted to, Lucifer and Satan, from the way I look at it. Because the God of Israel that the original Israelites worship before the Cabal got a hold of that religion and completely squirreled it around to their own benefit, they were worshiping the prime creator, that made everything. That's who they were all worshiping originally. And it just all got twisted. Just like they get a hold of things that are good and they invert it. Just like Christianity, the original Christians were good. Their teachings were good. They got a hold of that and they destroyed it all and they inverted everything. And that's what they do over and over again on this planet.
It's like they put the good and the bad in there. So yeah, there's like a lot of good in the Bible, but they mixed it all
Yeah.
in with the bad. But
Yeah.
that touches on what I was going to ask you. So why did they take the divine feminine away? Like, what is it about the divine feminine that they are so scared of?
Because
Like,
we're the ones
back
who
on
are,
that, and I have a follow-up question when you're done with that.
yeah. So that is a great question. Thank you. So the thing is that we are the ones who are always spiritually connected to source. We're the spiritual part of the male, female. Males are more about taking care of the divine masculine is about providing for your family, security, protection, protecting the women, protecting the children, not allowing children and women to be sex trafficked and put into slavery. When you go to a planet where they are trafficking 9 million people a year, like this one, and most of those are women and children, it's obvious what they've done to the divine masculine. They've gotten rid of the divine masculine completely. They've turned men into sniveling cowards. And then they've gotten rid of the feminine. Why? Because the feminine is love and nurturing and kindness and compassion and connection to source and creativity. We create with our wombs. We are creative. We are creative creatures. We're always plugged into our intuition. They always call it women's intuition, that term. It's because women are more the psychic. We're the ones that were the priestesses who were running all the religions before Christianity and Judaism took over and Islam took over. So I went on a trip to ancient Greece. I went to Greece and I went through and I learned about everything. And what did I find out? The ancient Greek religion, as well as all of the ancient religions in general, all over the world, were all run by goddesses and priestesses. Okay. The world worshiped women at one point. Okay. The world looked up to women. Women were the leaders. Guess what? There weren't wars and destruction and all this kind of stuff going on when women were in charge. Do you think a woman, unless a woman is a reptilian woman with no heart, if she's a normal human woman, because I've gotten into arguments with people about this before. I've said a woman would not want to send all her children off to war to kill. Okay. That's not something that's natural. That's not a natural thing for a woman to do. The only kind of women who would do such a thing would be reptilians, because they have no heart chakra and no love and no compassion at all whatsoever. They're devoid of all of that. And so a normal human woman who has a loving heart and chakra is not going to want to create wars and destruction on planet Earth. Well, who do you think was running the planet for a long time? A lot of the religions were run by the priestesses, and the priestesses were very noble and good and loving, and they didn't want to kill anything. They didn't want to murder anything. They don't like that, because the Draco reptilians are all about destroy, kill, destroy, suffering. Let's make all these humans suffer. And so when you get rid of that divine feminine, which is the nurturing, loving component, and you destroy it completely, then all you have left are these men. And then what did they do? They controlled and manipulated the men with their testosterone and everything to get all angry and to go kill. You go all the way back in time and you see like the Crusades, and you see all these different wars that happen. Who do you think was going to battle? It was all men killing each other, unless you were a Viking Valkyrie. If you go up to the Viking territories back then, they had the woman warriors, the Valkyries that were trained to fight. And again, that's more.
They destroyed the divine feminine so that they could have the wars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so to follow up on that, like, what would the world look like if we can restore the divine feminine back?
Well, I can tell you, if divine feminine was completely restored to earth and they took all these men out of power, especially they took down the religions need to collapse, because Yeshua told me back several years ago that all of the world religions were going to collapse, because they're all created by Satan and Lucifer for Satan and Lucifer. Okay, so he said he came here to get rid of that in the first place. He came here to get rid of religion, not to start a new religion. That wasn't his goal. He had many reasons he came to earth, which I talk about in the book, but one of them was to get rid of the religion, and the Sanhedrin weren't going to allow him to get rid of Judaism. So they murdered him, and then they made up all kinds of stories. Oh, he died for your sins. I go into a deep explanation of that in the book about why he really died. I go into huge explanation in the book about why he really died. But the thing is that go back. What was the question again? Because I get really ADD.
What does the world look like?
Yeah. What would the world would be
sword.
peaceful and calm, because I'm really into archaeology and history. And if you go back thousands of years and you go to places where everything was run by women, and when it was run by women, everything was very balanced, very balanced. And keep in mind that Earth is a classroom, and it was created as a learning, place where we come to learn. And so in the beginning, and when I say in the beginning, I'm talking about not in the beginning, the Bible story in the beginning, but in the real beginning of Earth, for billions of years, there were ETs living here in harmony and peace and happiness and joy. And they didn't war against each other. They didn't kill each other. They didn't do any of that. And the whole Earth was the Garden of Eden. I talk about that in the book. And the fact of the matter is that Satan and Lucifer showed up here 26,000 years ago, and they downgraded the Atlantean and Lemurian societies. They turned humans against each other, and they created all the sin. That's when the creation of sin really happened. And evil was when they showed up, because until then, there really wasn't a thing. People weren't living in their egos. What they did is they took men and women and put them into their ego, and they created all this destruction, and it was the downfall of society. And then they flipped the poles. So they wiped out, first they allowed the people to destroy themselves, and then they allowed everything to be destroyed, and they flipped the poles. So if you went back in time to that, which is what we're doing, so the whole ascension is all about creating new Atlantis. Okay, new Atlantis, or new age, new golden age. That is when everything is in balance. Okay, so back in those days, the Earth had 20% bad or evil or dark, whatever you want to call it, and 80 to 90% good. You had a little bit of darkness. Okay, so you'd have some people, like you send your kid to school and some bully smacks them on the head. Okay, that kind of thing happens. Okay, because that's a learning experience, and you have to learn. And if this was just like heaven, you wouldn't really learn a lot. Okay, because in heaven everything is perfect. So in order to have learning experiences, you have to come to a place where there's a little bit of trouble, right? A little bit of stuff. But what happened is when Satan and Lucifer showed up, they flipped it. So now guess what? You got 80 to 90% bad, evil, dark, rotten, horrible, and you've got 10 to 20% good. So
that's when you said basically when Satan was kicked out of heaven, is when that
Lucifer,
he came down and basically convinced us to more so live in our ego. He made the ego really important.
Yeah, because the ego is something that when you're in a body, you need the ego in order to exist on a planet and go through the classroom studies. Okay, ego is part of going through the human classroom. But there are, and I talk about it, I did a video all about it called the shadow side and doing your shadow work. There's what's called the shadow of the ego. Those are the dark parts of the ego that you should not have, because those are the parts that were created by Satan and Lucifer. What is that? Competition, jealousy, narcissism, self-centeredness, backstabbing, gossip, meanness, hate, anti-Semitism, racism, anything that is dark parts of humanity, all the dark parts. That's the dark parts of the ego. Those were created by Satan and Lucifer. All of those aspects were created by them. Why? To destroy humanity, because then we kill each other, right? We all kill each other. It's like, oh, I hate you because you're this. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to string you up because you're yellow or brown or this or that. It gets us to kill each other, and they're all about death, destruction, and suffering. And that's what they created on this planet, was death, destruction, and suffering. And before that, we didn't have it. I mean, people lived 500, 1,000 years, 5,000 years in a body on earth here. And then when they came, they teamed up with Enki and Enlil and all those, what you call the Anunnaki, which were bad. They're not good. And they took whatever beings were here and they edited their DNA down to 2 strands from 12 and higher. And they turned us all into carbon-based life forms instead of crystalline like we used to be. Why? Because when you're carbon and your 2-strand DNA, you get sick, you suffer, you die. Before they did that, that wasn't a thing. Death and suffering and all that and illness, that wasn't a thing before they came here. They basically created that. And why? Because guess what all the demonic entities, I've talked about this many times in books and videos, that Satan and Lucifer created nine demons for every human on this earth. For every human, there's 9 demons. Okay, what are the demons used for? They're used to destroy us, to ruin our lives and destroy us and cause suffering. And they feed off of our fear. They feed off our suffering, our sadness. When you're depressed, that's their leash that they feed off of. They feed off of your anger, your grief, your suffering, all of this. And Yeshua came here to earth to get us out of that and to teach us how to ascend out of that, how to get out of that prison, how to leave the prison, how to leave the matrix. He was the first ascension teacher. I'm an ascension teacher, but he was the first.
When you said Satan created 9 demons, like I thought they can't create. So what do you mean by that?
Oh yeah, he can create. You got to be kidding. These are Satan and Lucifer have the ability.
Darkness couldn't create.
Oh, anybody who says the darkness can't create is totally wrong. They can create all kinds of stuff. When I said Draco reptilians can't create.
Well, like they can invert things.
Well, that's the Draco. So Draco reptilian is a type of an ET. It's a type of an ET. So it has a physical body. It's not a god. Satan and Lucifer are like a god. They're like a super being. So they don't go by the same rules that the embodied beings go by. So like a reptilian is not like a soul that God created in heaven. It's a body that somebody came down into. Okay, because your soul is created in heaven. And then you pick a body on a planet and you go there to learn lessons. So you've got these people who their soul went into these Dracos, and then they got totally exploited by AI. And it's a long story. What's his name? Ismail Perez explains all that stuff better than I do, because I'm not really into the space history. That's not my thing. My thing is all Yeshua's teachings, but I will tell you that there's a reason for that. So the Draco are not able to create, and either are the Greys, and either as any of those types of beings, but those are not super beings. Those are not gods or celestial beings. Those are physical bodied beings. Okay. So that's totally different. Satan and Lucifer was actually an archangel. He was an archangel. Angels can create whatever they want to create. They have that ability. And Satan is a really ancient, and this is actually in my book, Ascension 101, I think. Satan, it was explained to me, is an ancient extraterrestrial who's very, very powerful. He's like kind of like a demigod, I guess you can explain, similar to like Zeus and Thor and all those types of beings. So he's able to create all kinds of stuff.
Okay. That was like not my belief, because I believe that, Satan inverts, like he takes everything that's good and then he inverts it.
Well, yeah, that too, but he also can create demons. He has the ability to create demons.
Okay.
That's how the demons are created. They don't just magically appear. They're created by something or someone. Lucifer and Satan
just inverted something good, right?
No, they actually created demons. So demons are actually almost like an AI type of a thing. The way it was explained to me is a demon is actually not like a soul that God created. It wasn't a soul that God created. God doesn't create demons. Demons are created by Satan and Lucifer, and they're almost like an AI type of a creature that basically is created for the sole purpose of attacking and killing humans. That's their sole purpose. Their sole purpose is to keep us trapped in the matrix, harass us, drain our loosh. Whoops.
But God is the only one that can create souls. Like,
Yes.
I don't believe demons can create souls.
No, they can't create a soul. No, they can't create, a demon can't create anything. A demon is created. A demon would be like a robot. Think of a robot. If I went and built a robot, that's a demon. But
you're saying that demons have souls, and that
no, they don't have a soul. They don't have a soul at all. Okay. No, they don't have a soul. They never have. No, but they can possess humans. They're able to take over humans and possess them and go inside of them.
Yeah, I guess I was just a little confused because you said their sole purpose.
No, so well, they have a purpose. I
attributed that with soul.
Oh, sorry. No, their purpose, their soul, meaning not soul like S-O-L-E, spelled differently. Yeah, their sole purpose. Yeah, so their purpose is attacking and killing humans, possessing humans, destroying humans, torturing humans, making humans sick, giving us diseases, doing terrible things. And then they feed off of them, and the Draco feed off of the energy of our suffering, our fear, all of that. They feed off of that. That's like their ambrosia or whatever that they drink on a daily basis.
Right.
So that's what keeps them powered up.
In your book, you also talk about like religion versus spirituality, and religion is not about having a relationship with prime creator, mother, father, God. It's more about like dogma, doctrine,
and doctrine. Control. Yep.
Yeah. But spirituality is about like your personal relationship with
God,
source, or your connection to your higher self, connection to like the whole universe or anyone in the universe, and creation, spirit guides, ascended masters like Yeshua. Also, like spirituality has to do with like practices or rituals that you do to improve these connections. So I was going to ask, like, what are some rituals or practices that you use to strengthen or maintain your spirituality?
Oh my gosh, thank you for asking. I love that question. Thank you. So every day I have a whole bunch of practices I do. First thing I do is every day I try to meditate at least a minimum of 5 minutes. Even if I'm so busy, I'm just crazy busy, I try to sneak in, because you can meditate in the shower. You can meditate while you're washing dishes. You can meditate while you're walking through your dog, going on a walk. There's so many ways. I'm a meditation teacher. I'm a certified meditation instructor, and there's 108 ways to meditate. So my biggest thing is, if in the Bible, there's a saying that's be still and know I am. The saying, be still and know I am, it came from the Bible. What they're talking about is quieting your mind. So what meditation is it's quieting your mind and being still and focusing on something and getting out of your head and more into your senses. Like, what am I feeling, hearing, touching, smelling right now? What am I sensing right now, as opposed to what am I thinking? When you're meditating, you're out of your brain and you're more in your senses of, I'm focusing on my breathing. I'm breathing right now. I'm smelling right now. I'm hearing right now, that type of thing. And that can be done anywhere at any time of day. And that is how God comes into your head. So the biggest part of spirituality is connecting with God, connecting with your higher self, which is basically your soul, that part of you that has been in existence for millions of years and is going to be in existence forever. That's your higher self, or your soul, or your Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit inside of your body is your soul. That's your Holy Spirit. And that is why they say the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so how you connect with that Holy Spirit within you is through meditating, because you have to quiet your mind in order to hear yourself, to hear your higher self. Because what Yeshua told me, and God spoke to me actually back in 2011 or 2010, somewhere in there, and said, Kimberly, you're not the only person I talk to on the earth. I talk to everybody and they can't hear me because their minds are too cluttered. So he said, I want you to go out and teach them how to hear me. That's what he said. He said, I want you to teach them how to connect with me and how to hear me. How do you do that? Quiet your mind every day. That's part one of spiritual practice, is quieting your mind every day. And prayer is also meditation. Chanting is meditation. There's so many different ways you can do it. But that is what I do throughout the day. I will chant, I will sing, I pray every day. I constantly pray. I'm a prayer warrior. I'm always praying all the time, always having conversations with God. So having a conversation with God is part of a spiritual practice. I highly recommend it to everybody. Everybody needs to just sit and have a chat and know that God doesn't think of you as this lowly, sniveling little ant on the ground. That is not how God sees you. God loves you unconditionally, like, because you are a child of God. Everybody is a child of God. And so you don't come to God acting like this little sniveling, like coward person. You come to God and have a conversation the way you would with your father or your mother. Hey, mom, hey, dad, I need your help here. I'm having a really difficult time with my life, and I really need your support now. And that is how you come to God. That is how you pray powerfully, is you have a conversation with them. You actually talk to them. You can do the same with these two beings. These two beings, you sit and you have a conversation. You invite them in. You say, I call in Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, and I want to have a conversation with you. And you sit and you talk to them, and they can hear everything you say. But that's all part of a spiritual practice. And that's what I do every day. I also use crystals a lot. I listen to 528 hertz and higher frequency music every day, or tried to every day, to help me to get grounded and centered and balanced, which is a big part of a spiritual practice, is making sure every day that you're getting grounded. You're grounding yourself to planet Earth, because if you're off floating around in the ethers, that's not a good thing. So you want to get grounded, you want to center yourself, and you want to protect yourself. Protection is a huge, important part of a daily spiritual practice. What does that mean? That means you call in your guardian angels that were assigned to you since you were born. You call in Archangel Michael and other archangels, and you ask them to place, I ask for a multi-layered shield of protection to be placed around me every day, and my home, and my family, and my pets, and my cars. So when I'm driving my cars, I'm safe, and my bank accounts, and my electronic devices. And that's the kind of thing that you ask for, is you ask for that protection. So protection, grounding, centering, meditating, focusing, these are all part of a daily spiritual practice. You can also do things like setting up an altar. I have an altar that I have set up. It's got different types of pictures of Christ on it. It's got pictures of Mother Mary. It's got a statue of Archangel Michael. I've got different crystals on there. I've got prayers on there. I've got protection items on there to protect my home and my family. And I use that, to pray, to sit and pray. I pray anywhere I go. I'm always praying, but I like to pray on my altar, because you can also light a candle. If you have somebody who's suffering that you're praying for, you're somebody died, or you have a friend who's going through trouble, you can put a candle on your altar and you can pray for them, which is really nice. So that's all part of spiritual practice. And that's just a small part of it. There's a lot more. I could go on for 2 hours about all the different things you can do, but the biggest part of it is connecting to your high self, connecting to source, connecting to your guides and angels, grounding and centering and protecting yourself every day, just having conversations with the divine on a daily basis, getting to know, having a personal relationship with your creator that made your soul,
And I love that, like, you address the father, mother, because I've always, everybody said,
yeah,
God will protect you. He will save you.
it's not a he.
Like, God is not a he.
It's not a he.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sexless and faceless. It has the energies of masculine and feminine. I mean, think about it. They said God created us in his image. Well, how can there be female and male if his image is only male? That doesn't even make sense at all. To me, it's never made any sense when they push that whole Christian concept of, they created Adam. And by the way, I talk about this in my book. The Adam and Eve story is a bunch of hokey pokey crap. There was never a person named Adam or a person named Eve. There were ETs living on this planet for billions of years, large groups of ETs. There was an original humanoid species of ape-like people that were created. They were created as a slave race by the ETs, by the Anunnaki. Okay. And then their DNA was edited to make what we look like today. That's how we look like what we look like.
Were Adam
because
and
they edited.
Eve the experiment?
And there was no person named Adam or Eve, but there might have been two individuals that the Anunnaki took the first two. There might have been like two monkey like humans, ape like humans that were the first two that they took and did their genetic experimenting on. But were they named Adam and Eve? No. Nobody knows what their name was. Their name could have been Bleeblop and Bleebloop, or Gorgonza and Matilda. We don't really know what their names were. The name Adam and Eve comes from, if you talk to Ismail Perez, he'll explain where those terms come from. But Adam term is a space terminology, like the atom in your body. The word Adam and the word Eve actually come from lots of other things. It's basically symbolic. So it's not like really the name of like two individual people. Those people never existed. And the whole story of Cain and Abel is actually a parable to show you how the Jews split into two groups of what are called the Canaanite, the evil Satan, Lucifer worshiping ones, and the good Jews who worship Prime Creator. So you've got good Jews on planet Earth who actually worship the God of love, the unconditional loving God that I worship. And then you've got these Khazarian mafia cabal ones, and the story of Cain and Abel is actually the story of how that all came to be and how they split into those two factions.
Awesome. So we already touched on so the first chapter is kind of like where this information comes from, and then
the
second chapter you talk about their names, like Jesus was not his real name. Like his real name was actually Yeshua ben Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
And his soul's name, as you also mentioned, was Sananda.
Yeah.
And Yeshua means anointed by the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And it says to come to earth. He came to earth to save humans from their slavery. And to anoint means to set something apart for a special purpose. So, yeah, he came to save us from our enslavement, basically. And then you talked about the real name for Mary Magdalene was never Mary. Like Jesus's mother was not actually Mary. Like Mary, Greek and Italian term for Mary was Maria, and the French name for Mary is Marie, but the real name for like Hebrew, Aramaic is Miriam.
Yeah, it was Miriam. Anybody back in the day that was a Mary was Miriam. Mary is again another English term. It's an English word that was created with the English language. So yeah. And that's why you sing Ave Maria. You don't sing Ave Mary. which is on my channel. I sang Ave Maria on my that was my Christmas gift to everybody. Was my operatic version of Ave Maria that's on my YouTube channel. So I'm a trained opera singer. So
awesome. So it's not actually like Mother Mary, it's Mother Miriam.
Yeah, it would be Mother Miriam or Mother Maria or Mother Marie if you're French, if you're from Gaul. It was called Gaul back then, but yeah.
So Mary Magdalene, so what is her real name?
Her name was Miriam of Magdala. Yeah. And she didn't really come from Magdala either, which we'll let people learn that in the book. She lived there for a little while, but that's not where she actually came from.
So how come you put Mary Magdalene on the cover? Is that how you refer to her, or do you refer to her as Miriam?
I put it on the cover because people would, if I put that on the cover, people would go, huh? 99% of the population knows her as Mary Magdalene. So if I were to put Miriam on the cover, they'd be like, who's that? They wouldn't even know who it is. A lot of people, they'd have no idea.
It makes sense. And I figure that, but it says, but the title is Yeshua and Mary Magdalene.
Yeah. I wouldn't have
But a
put,
lot of people know about Yeshua.
a lot of people know that name. And what people in your audience need to understand, so not only is that his Hebrew name, but there is a group, they call them Jews for Jesus. They're really called the Messianic Jews, the Messianic Church. That are people, those are people who were Jewish and they converted to Christianity. Okay. Do you know that if you walk into any Messianic church, which are Jews for Jesus, if you walk into anyone anywhere in the world, guess what they call him?
Yeshua?
Yeah, they don't call him Jesus. They've never called him Jesus. They know that's not his name. They know that. The Messianic Jews have known forever that his name was never Jesus. That was never his name. They call him by his real name. Yeah. So
See, if I try to bring this up, so like my dad is really religious. So if I try to bring this up to him, he would be like, this is not biblical, you know? I mean, I don't know. I don't think he watches.
tell him I wouldn't give this book. So just so everybody knows, this book, first of all, there's stuff in this book that you will not find on the internet. You won't find in any books
I couldn't
anywhere.
even have that conversation with him. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, you can't. So people in your life who are still part of the church and very indoctrinated, let's just call them indoctrinated people. And I don't care if they're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, if they're indoctrinated, they're going to hate my book and they're not going to relate to any of it whatsoever. This book is only for people who are awake, open-minded spiritual seekers. That is who the audience is for this book, because anybody who's still in the indoctrination of a church is going to read it and they're going to flip out. They're going to absolutely flip out. And then they're going to be sending me little nasty notes in the mail, you know, because I've had that happen when I talk about it in videos. I've had them attack me, the radical Christian group attack me, say you're possessed by Satan and you're evil and you're going, it's like, you got to be kidding. I've been following Jesus since I was a baby. You know, there's nothing relatively evil or demonic about me. I'm nice to everybody. It's like, seriously, are they that insane? But you see, all they do is judge, which, by the way, is a negative part of the ego. It's also a shadow part of you, is judgment.
And that also comes from Satan.
And that also comes from Satan. That also comes from Satan. All of that judgment, judging everybody. That's why it says in the Bible, judge not lest ye be judged. And for every finger that you point at me, there's 3 back at you. Why? Because look at yourself. I'm a mirror to you. You know, you can't go around judging people. It's only up to God to make the judgments. It's not up to us to make the judgments, only God. And so that's really, really important to know. But the thing is that this book has information in it that is so controversial that I was asked by him to not put it on Amazon, to not put it out into the public, into the world. It's only supposed to be available for my friends, my clients, my followers, the spiritual community. Through me, I have it in a PDF. And so what I do is I have people go to the link. I'm going to give you the link to put in this video in the description, but you go to the link and it's $11 with Stripe. It's Stripe, not PayPal, because everybody hates PayPal these days. So I use Stripe. And it's $11. And then I email you the PDF of the book. And I've had so many people go, when will the print book be out? And what I say to them is I say, when are you going to give me a $20,000 donation? And that's when the print will be out. Because when you're not going public with the book, you have to go to a private printing company to print the books. They don't just print them up for you for free. It doesn't work that way. I would have to pay a printing company thousands of dollars to have 100 or more copies of the book printed up. And then if I'm not able to sell those, I just lost all that money. You know, I'm out of all that money and I'll never see it back again. And so when all my other books, my other 2 books, Ascension 101 and The Real Fountain of Youth, they're on Amazon. Why? Because that's information that I don't care who reads it. You know, anybody can read it. This particular book is so controversial that if it gets out there, it could cause a lot of trouble, like a lot of trouble. And so I'm asking people, if you go to the link that we're going to give you and you buy a copy, do not share it with other people. And do not give it to people who are indoctrinated, because if you do, you're going to piss them off. And then they're also going to come after me. And my family doesn't need that kind of trouble.
Right.
I'm sure my children wouldn't be very appreciative of it. So, yeah, because it's a very sensitive book. I'm basically outing all kinds of stuff that the cabal and the Catholic Church do not want anybody to know about. I mean, I go on and on about all kinds of things that the church has done. And I mean, the book, there's so much in this book. There's 12 chapters of information in this book, and we go into so much stuff in there. I cover all kinds of controversial stuff in this book. So yeah, it's
And
really
if you
something.
want the link, I actually posted on the community tab. So you can go to the community tab, or I will put it in the comments and in the description of this video as soon as I get off here. If you want to buy the link, but if you want to go get it right now, don't wait, just go to the community tab and the link is there. So yeah, we talked about kind of like chapter 2 and then chapter 3 talks about like what do they look like, and then you really kind of talk about like the Essenes, who are the Essenes in chapter 4.
Mm-hmm.
And like we kind of already touched on this stuff, but they were known as healers, and they studied, like you mentioned, spirituality, astrology, numerology, ancient scrolls, like healing. They did healing work. They helped others in their community. And as you mentioned, like they were different. They weren't like a religion. They were more like a commune, like a community.
Mm-hmm.
And they lived together in peace and in harmony. And they had like this collective ownership where it's like where they come in, they say, here's all my stuff. And they put it in this big collective pot, and they kind of like divvied everything out. So nobody had a need for money.
Nobody goes without. There's no homeless people in the Essene community. That doesn't exist. Everybody has a roof over their head. Everybody gets food. Everybody gets taken care of. But you don't get to sit around and do nothing. Everybody has jobs and work that they do to be part of that, whether they're in the field farming, or they're making clothing, or they're making horse hoofs in the state, whatever, taking care of the stable. I mean, they all had a role to play. Basically, you have duties that you have to do. I mean, even Yeshua, when he was a little boy and he was in Qumran and he was going through all the training, I mean, he had daily chores and duties that he had to do. You have all kinds of chores and things that you have to do. So it's not, oh, I'm going to sit around and collect a check for free and not go to work from the government, which is like a lot of Americans these days since the pandemic, sitting at home collecting their check and don't want to do anything. Oh, the government will take care of me. It's like, no, you got to get your lazy ass up and go do something. Nobody owes you anything.
Yeah, so everybody was equal. No one was higher up than anybody else. They had like mainly a vegetarian diet, but sometimes fish and lamb.
Yep.
And they were trained in healing work, like using herbs, crystals, energy healing, chakra clearing, chakra balancing.
Yep. And they were famous for energy healing. So people would come to the Essenes from all over the world, from other communities. They would come to the Essenes to receive healing, because they were all trained. All of the healing that Yeshua did on people, all that healing that he did, that he learned that from the Essenes. They were all trained healers. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember you mentioned about like Mary Magdalene. She was the one that I don't know if you want to mention that or not.
I don't want to give that away.
Okay.
You guys are going to find out some surprises in this book that are going to blow your mind. If you ever read the Bible, some of the stuff in here is just going to blow your mind so much.
But yeah,
even
like
if you didn't read the Bible,
religion said that there would be two, and there is like a male part and a female part. And Mary Magdalene was that female part, and he learned things from her too.
Yep, they're twin flames.
I like how you talked about how the Essene leadership and kind of what that looks like, and that would be similar to how Earth will be run when we go 5D.
Yeah,
There's
we're
a
going to have
paragraph-
councils of
There's
elders.
one paragraph that I would love to read if it's okay with you. If not, we don't have to.
Is it a small one or is it a big
It's a
one?
little paragraph. It's comparing the Essene leadership about how things will be run in the 5D.
Sure, you can talk about that.
Okay.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm excited for it.
Honestly,
I want it to happen
y'all,
now.
this book is so good. Like, I was so excited and like telling my husband, oh my God, like this is so, it's really, really good. It's like hard to stop reading. But yeah, this one paragraph, I just thought this is super, super important. Page 32. The Essene leadership is similar to how our Earth leadership will be in 5D. The Essene communities were run by a council of elders. These people worked for the people and they were not paid money. It was a volunteer position. People would offer to be on the council and then the community would vote them into their position. If a council member did not do their job or they did something bad, a crime, or harmed another Essene in any way, they were removed from their position and replaced with someone more competent. This is the way the USA and other governments should be run.
I'm getting chills right now.
It's so good. It's so profound. And like, what if we did that? You know, these politicians are messing up. Oh, they messed up. Get them out of there. Like, let's get someone more competent in their place. Like, that's how it should be done.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's the thing is our government has been run incorrectly from day one. You know, it was set up by the Freemasons. You know, it's all about the control. It's, you know, everything in this world is all about keeping people trapped in the matrix, you know, which was a documentary. We know that. It was a documentary. Yeah.
And you also mentioned earlier, like you talked about Yeshua, and in your book, you talk about how he goes to other countries like Egypt, Tibet, India, and other places. And then, so there's one more paragraph. If it's okay with you, I'd love to read it. It's just the last paragraph. Where it is. Last paragraph on page 36. Oh no, it's the last paragraph of is it okay if I read the last paragraph of chapter 4? Or it's chapter 4.
Is it just a little bit of information? It's not a whole long
paragraph. No, it's just a little one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is super exciting because like I feel like this one paragraph is so powerful, and it's like really important to where we're going as this, you know, whole religion is like getting busted.
Obliterated.
Hopefully all of religion will just fall, and you know,
we don't need it. We don't need it. What everybody on earth, you know, he was here to teach everybody to just connect to source. There's never supposed to be religions on this planet.
Right. And so it says, as the 3 major religions are completely taken down, many people worldwide who have been indoctrinated into these religions will have mental breakdowns and problems coping with the truth that their religions were a lie. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. Okay. We, the people who have awakened first during this great awakening, apocalypse of earth, will be the ones helping these people to learn and understand the spiritual truths that Christ, Buddha, and many other ascended masters on earth were really teaching us, not the false stories given to humans by the cabal. So that is so important. Like this work that you're doing here, that we're doing here, like the work that you're doing at home, you know, studying, learning, reading, like we're all going to like have to step up as these systems like crumble, and like we're gonna have to be the next wave, you know. We're gonna have to be supporting
bring
people.
Your A game. Yeah, bring your A game, because I know it's really emotional. It gets me emotional too. What people don't understand when they're coming to me for private sessions or they're attending any of my classes is they don't understand that they are me, because I was like first, okay, because I've been awake my whole life, because I was born with psychic ability. So I've known a lot of this. I mean, there's things I've learned in the last 3-4 years. Like I learned 4 years ago that 9 million kiddos are trafficked every year on the earth. That stuff I didn't know, but there's a lot of stuff that I've known my whole life. But so I was like first wave of awakening. A lot of my clients are second wave. They're either first wave or second wave of awakening. But when the third wave of awakenings happen, which is the last one, that's the final one. Anybody who doesn't wake up in this third wave is leaving here. They're just leaving. Okay. So in the third wave of the people who are awake, it's going to be so shocking for them because these people are so asleep that in order to wake them up, they have to be shocked awake. And they're going to be like totally flipping out. And so all of the people who are watching Chelsea and I right now, talking to you, all the people who follow us, all of our clients, all of our followers, all of you that are awake, everyone in the Patriot community, every one of you are going to be Kimberly's. Okay. You're all going to be out there. I've been counseling people since 1995. Okay. Professionally, 96, something like that. I've been professionally counseling people and helping people with their businesses, their lives, their relationships, all kinds of stuff. And you guys are going to be just like me. You're going to be out there helping people to cope because they're going to wake up, they're going to get shocked awake, and they're not going to know the history of this earth. And that's why I tell everybody, you got to get a copy of my book, Ascension 101, because all of the information that's in there, you will be using that information to teach your people, your family, your friends, your neighbors when they are shocked awake. The info that's in that book is a guidebook for how to make it through all of this. So it's really important. And then this info on this book, Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, for the people who are coming out of the church per se, not out of Islam or Judaism, but out of any church, out of Christianity, they're going to need this knowledge about Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. They're going to need that. So it's important for all of you to read this material and to read my other book. Those were written specifically to turn you into another version of me. What am I? Well, I'm here to serve humanity. I'm here to wake people up, to help people, to counsel people, to teach people, to guide people through the ascension, to help them ascend. That is what I came here for. But all of you are going to be doing the same thing as I'm doing, right? Or I have been doing. I've been doing this for years and years and years. I've been really focusing in on ascension guidance for the last 4 years. But you all are going to be doing this. And those books were put out into the world to give you a foundation or a guidebook on what you need to do to work with me as a team, because we're all a team. And this guy over here, he actually is the one. He told me himself. He said, Kimberly, you're not a lone wolf. You're not here to save the world. He said, you're here to work with everybody else as a team to save the world. He said, it's going to take all of you working together to save the world. So,
yeah. So it makes it that much more important, like everything that we're doing now, everything that we're learning now, and all the time we're spending. And even if, obviously probably most of us are still being like persecuted and like ridiculed and
every day,
or like we are just not even sharing, because like obviously if we did share some of this stuff, then people would be, giving us their judgments or their judging us basically. But like it makes it so much more important. Like it's okay. Like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're going to help others get through this. And like, eventually we're going to have to be there for them. And I saw that you actually shared Gila Jed's video too, but she talked about this term called forced awakening. And it's like, they've done all these things, they've done all the reveals, and like there has been a lot of things come to light, a lot of big reveals made, and a lot of disclosure happening. But there comes a point where it's like there's still not people waking up, and at some point, like there's going to be this shaking, and it's the forced awakening where it's like that third wave. Hey, third wave, you're not awake yet. It's time to wake up, and like something big, bad, scary, potentially like dangerous, like is going to happen at some
yeah,
point.
it could be what you and I were talking about before we started the video. And I was kind of upset because I listened to a video from a person from FEMA, a whistleblower, who's talking about the next, that they're going to
There is
launch on
talk
us.
of a second lockdown coming, and that's being put out there right now. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's for something that's going to would kill pretty much most of the population. It would kill most of the planet. And so that's the kind of thing that maybe it's going to take something like that to shake people awake, because they talk about the shaking. And initially because I kept dreaming about earthquakes all the time. And so I was sitting there and going, okay, are there going to be massive earthquakes on the earth? Is that the shaking? Is it physical or is it spiritual? And I was told, no, it's a spiritual shaking. So they're going to have something that's going to scare them so bad that it shakes them awake. It's so scary that they're just peeing their pants, terrified, and they have no choice but to wake up.
Yeah, it could be like something, sickness, illness, virus, or like physical, or it could also be financial.
Or ET, or who knows, ET destruction. They do still have Project Bluebeam. They can make it look like we're being attacked by thousands of ships from the sky. There's all kinds of stuff they can do. I even saw a video where they filmed a giant Satan, like a giant Satan that was 200 feet tall, walking across the earth. And they did that in Asia somewhere using Project Bluebeam. And if you looked, it would look like there's a giant Satan about to step on you, and you would probably have a heart attack and die.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Well, we say no as humanity. We say no to, a lot of people dying. Like, I understand, like, not everybody's going to make it, but surely not like the majority. It's like, I think that there are good people working behind the scenes to stop this, but like they have to show what's been happening. Like a lot of the reads that Janine does on her cards, like a lot of them say, oh yeah, this is it, this is what they were going to do, and they are now. Like in Canada, how if you don't want to get the thing, then they're saying
they're going to lock you up in a mental hospital.
No, the doctors can refer you.
Yeah.
The doctors can refer people or report people for, putting them into a mental facility.
Mm-hmm.
And that's showing the cards. Like that's showing us what the evil plans were. And I just hope that it's not really going to happen.
Yeah. And they're pushing government assisted suicide like crazy up there. Because it's all part of the depopulation agenda. All of everything they do is part of the depopulation agenda. And I saw a videotape of Klaus, the guy who looks like a James Bond bad guy, that guy, World Economic Forum, sitting there with his buddy, who's the president of PFIZER company, sitting there and yakking about how happy they are that they succeeded at killing 50% of the human population by the year 2023, that they've already succeeded at that. They were just happy as pie about it. 50%. Yeah. I don't believe that though, because I was told in the end, 33%, 35%, something like it was 30 something percent was going to be completely gone from the earth in the end. But they're saying 50. So, I don't know.
That's also part of the fear tactics. And
yeah.
And that's what I don't understand. Like, why are they using fear so much? Like, oh, that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic.
But they are trying to scare people awake.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then I saw everybody keeps saying Musk is a good guy, but then he was working with Microsoft, BG guy. He's done all kinds of contracts with him. He's best buddies with him. I mean, they've shown umpteen different things that was in the news, all of his contracts and all his corporate mergers with them and everything. So how is he possibly good if he's working with the number one eugenist on the planet? That doesn't even the number one guy who wants to kill everybody. He's working with him. It's like, and then people are, oh, he's good. So I have one thing to say: either everybody's fooled and he's still a bad guy, and he's trying to infiltrate the truther community or whatever. Or number 2 choice is he was replaced with a clone or an actor. And then number 3 choice is he has a walk-in, because I've had a lot of psychic friends think that he has an angelic walk-in. So.
Well, I think like a lot of the theory is that the white hats have taken over a lot of these people and like are using them for the good. And I do believe that, like the way that the dark has like puppeted us and leaders, like I do believe the white hats are doing that with them too. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still, the dark hat doing his thing too. So maybe there's the good one and a bad one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just have to wait to find out.
I know. I've actually heard on several channels they claim that he and his mom were killed, like they were gitmoed, as they call it, or whatever. I've heard that. I don't know if that's true, but they claim that they were already executed a while back, and that's an actor or a clone or CGI or something like that. So
yeah, and the same thing was said about that BG guy and his wife, which I think that actually might be true. Like
that, I think is true, because what I heard, this was before they started, how do you want to say, quieting the media, or before the social media started to get squashed, to keep us from talking. Yeah. And all that. In India, him and his wife went there in the year 2018, I believe. Maybe it was 2016. I don't know. It was 20 something. They went there and they gave out the whats for whatever disease to all the young women and girls in that country. And lots of them died. And what I heard was they were lynched and they were hung. They were actually hung by their neck in India. And if you go to ancestry.com, I believe it was, I was able to go in and see it. And it said the year of their death, both of them, under both of their names. You go up under Melinda, you go under Melinda's file. It said she died and it was the same year. And then you go to her husband and both of them died same date, same year, according to Ancestry. That was in there. Yeah.
And they look so different the last few years anyway. Like, look.
Well, I've seen, so the original one, I used to live near there. So I used to live near Microsoft
in Austin.
And I met the original Melinda. She doesn't look anything like the one that they have in there now.
Where is that? Where's
Redmond, Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I used to live in that area. I moved very far away from there because it was too demonic in that area. So I moved far, far, far away. Very far away. Very, very, very far away. As far as I could go. There are way too many demons over there. So, yeah. But she doesn't look the same. She doesn't look the same. I haven't met him in person, so I can't say anything about him, but I met her in person and she doesn't look the same. It's not her. Also the same with Gwen Stefani. I went to high school with her. That's not her. Looks completely different. You can do all the plastic surgery in the world. You're not going to look that much different. We're talking head shape, head size, ears, face, bone structure, everything. Come on. What did they do? Rip out all her bone structure and redo? Yeah, I don't believe that. Totally different person.
How long has she looked different?
A couple of years. Yeah. My guess is the dark cult in Hollywood killed the original one because she wouldn't go along with whatever they were doing. What they wanted her to do, she wouldn't go along with it. And they own her brand. She's a brand as Janine, Tarot by Janine. I love that woman. She's awesome. But she talks a lot about the brands, how they brand, they own, the dark cult owns these brands of these people. And so do the white hats own some brands of people. And they put the brand out there, like the brand of Harry and Meghan and the brand of, whatever. They take them off the earth plane, but they still own the brand. So they put somebody else in there, a placeholder that's either a clone or an actor wearing a mask or whatever. I think Utsava refers to it as a mask. She calls them all a mask. So, yeah. And Everybody has a different term of what they call these people, but I know for sure, Gwen, because when you meet these people in person and you know what they look like, and there's very specific body characteristics of the original one that are totally different. Like even her build of her body, like the way her body's shaped, completely different. It's all different, not the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, I mean, we pretty much covered like chapters like 1 through 4, and then you get into the timeline of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, which is very fascinating too. And you also talk about how like humans have like a long time reputation of rejecting their divinity and like positive change. And ever since like Lucifer came, you say, that when he came to earth is when he really got people to live in their ego, and he turned the planet into a slave prison of suffering. So we're just trying to bring the divinity back and bring back the love, the compassion, the kindness,
and the balance of the divine masculine. We need to restore the divine masculine, which is when men, and I talk about that in the book too, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. The masculine is supposed to be protecting the women and children, and they're not. They're doing a really shitty job of it right now. They're allowing women and children to be trafficked all over the world. So that shows that there is no divine masculine. It was snuffed out a long time ago. And then, I mean, unless you have people like these people like Underground Railroad, what's his name? The guy who made the movie with Jim Caviezel, that is an example of divine masculine in action. This is a guy who wants to protect women and children. Yeah. Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard embodies the divine masculine. There are a whole bunch of men who are on earth right now who have come into bodies who embody the divine masculine. So he's one of them. There's a whole bunch of them. You've got Michael on Our Everyday Lives. There's a whole bunch of guys on YouTube who I can point out and go, that's divine masculine. That's divine masculine. That's divine masculine. I think Michael Jaco kind of embodies divine masculine. There's a whole bunch of different guys on YouTube who you can see that they came here to model that behavior for the rest of these guys who have been turned into sniveling morons on the planet. But we need to bring back the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and they need to be in balance. Because whenever I go talking about divine feminine, then I get attacked by guys saying, "Ooh, you're a man hater." It's like, no, I'm not. I'm married to a man. I have a husband in my home who would go out of his way to protect his wife and children. He would, walk to the gates of hell for us and back, if he had to. So am I a man hater? No, but I realize that they've stripped away from men what they need to create balance on the earth. We need balance, and it needs to be restored. It's not about, am I a woman this or am I a man this? It's like, no. They obviously don't get me. I'm a Libra moon. I'm all about balance. We need to create balance. That's what we need on planet Earth.
Yeah, you talk about restoring the divine feminine, but you're also talking about restoring the divine masculine. Like you're not saying the divine feminine is going to be on
They're
top.
not going to take over. Like, nobody's going to be on top or bottom. So the women aren't going to rule the world. That's not it at all. The men who are ruling the world are going to have to embody the divine masculine, or they're going to go. It's got to be the rulers who are men. Yeah, it has to be in balance. So the men who are ruling need to embody that masculine. What does that mean? They're protecting. They're not out to destroy and conquer and all this ego. This is all that radical ego, dark, what we call the dark side or the shadow side of the self. The controlling, manipulation, power hungry, greedy, money hungry, all these things. Those are all the dark sides of the shadow that are not divine masculine, because divine masculine isn't about power hungry and all that. That is not divine masculine. Divine masculine is very loving and compassionate and kind, but also very protecting too, and are able to stand in their power and stand up to the bad guy when it's necessary. So they're able to be strong men, not wimpy men that are just pushovers that let the government just roll right over them and say, we're going to force you to get this. Like, look at all these countries like Australia, where the men in that country allowed them to force jab everybody in the country. It's like, seriously, those men just wussed out all over the country as a whole nation, you know. But then you have divine masculine guys in Australia that are clients of mine. I have a lot of clients in Australia that are men, and they embody the divine masculine. The problem is that they're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. So what do they do? What do they do when they embody that? So you've got people in that country who do embody the divine masculine, just like everywhere in the world. But all of these guys who embody that are outnumbered by all of the lunatic guys that are just brainwashed by the dark, you know.
I think the biggest fault of the masculine is right now is just the refusing to look and just saying, I don't believe that. Just because it's dark and scary, I don't believe that. Oh, what you really mean is you don't have the courage to learn about it, because if you actually spent the time and learned about it, then you would have to do something about it.
Exactly.
So like the guys that are
You just
like,
nailed it.
I don't
You just
believe
nailed
that.
it.
Well, they're just refusing to look.
Yeah,
So,
you just described certain people in my life who I'm not going to mention because I don't want to get in trouble, but let's just
me
say,
too. And that's weak.
yeah, I have men very close to me who that described 100%. You just hit the nail.
I
Yeah.
do too.
Yeah. Yeah. And they won't listen to me. I could show them
Yeah,
until and
I
even
believe
if
that.
I marched bloody kids in front of them, they'll still say, oh, there's no such thing as trafficking. It's like, you got to be kidding me. And then
Yeah.
they yelled at me and attacked me and said that I'm obsessed with this traffic because I talk about it. And I'm like, no, I'm not obsessed with it. I want to put an end to it. It's upsetting to me that this is allowed to go on the planet, and I want to put an end to it. I'm not obsessed with it.
There's so much suffering right now. It's like, I
Yeah.
don't understand how people are just continuing their everyday lives, because it's just like, I saw someone break down and it was a guy breaking down, like, there's so much suffering right now. How do you continue? Like, we've got to fight this fight. Like, what else could we do? We have to fight it.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. And it's all around. It's even in my neighborhood. I mean, even in my own town with homeless people. I mean, our homeless population in the city that I live near is ridiculously horrible. I mean, and it went up by like a gazillion percent in the last 3 years because of all the people who lost their jobs and then lost their homes, and families with children that are now homeless. I mean, the number of homeless children just through the roof in the last 3-4 years because they shut down all these businesses. Like, just in my area, I'd say 75% of the restaurants that were mom and pop restaurants all went out of business. When they did all the shutdowns, they all closed down. And when that happened, all those people who worked in those businesses lost their jobs. And then a lot of other businesses, clothing stores that went out of business, purse and shoe shops, whatever. I mean, like my favorite shoe store went out of business. All these different small mom and pop owned businesses all went under as a result of them shutting everything down. And then all of those people who lost their businesses or lost their jobs, they also lost their home, their apartment, whatever, and are now homeless.
Yeah, that's terrible. It's really sad.
Yeah. And, and I can tell you, they've been planning this whole thing for many years. And according to the FEMA guy I just heard on that video on Facebook, he said that they've actually been planning this since before 9/11.
Wow.
They've been planning all of this.
Well, let's continue to like ping, let's ping the alliance and say, let the truth out, let the truth come out. And we
need to shake
it.
people awake. They need to do the shaking, and they need to do the shaking now. What does that mean? That means media's got to go. The media's got to go, because the media is the ones perpetrating this thing going and going. And I've told this to all my friends I've talked to every one of my friends who are all psychic, intuitive, whatever. I've told them over and over. I said, And they agree with me that as long as the media is up with the same people spewing the same false baloney and lies day after day after day after day, as long as that's allowed to perpetrate, nothing's going to ever change. It's just going to be continuing the same old, same old. It'll just keep going forever.
So what if they're showing some truth on Fox? Like they don't watch Fox, you know?
It's not, they don't watch that. Like the people I want to see it, like, you know, my own husband, he won't watch it. He won't watch that station. He's too busy watching NBC, you know? So, there's people,
all media.
Yeah. All of it's gotta go. And even Fox only gives out just a tiny smidgen, a little bit. Even if they give it out, they're giving out just a little. And the thing is that they're saying, oh, we need to drip. I keep hearing all these truthers making excuses, these patriots saying we need to drip the information out slowly because it would be just too hard. It's like, give me a break. At the rate that they're doing that, what they don't understand is the people who still are not awake are so brainwashed that dripping stuff in front of them will not ever wake them up. That will never change anything. That won't change anything. Nothing's going to change. The only way that you can get people to wake up at this point, anybody who's not awake now, there's only one way to do this now, and that is shock the heck out of them. It's the only way. Yeah. Like almost like sitting in an electric chair. They're going to need a giant electric chair for the planet to literally shock them. That's what they're going to need. It's the only way, because, until they do that, it's going to be the same old, same old. This will just keep dragging out and dragging out and dragging out forever. So
should we pray real quick and ask for that? Okay. Yep. All right. God, source creator, mother, father, we just want to ask for the truth to come out. It's time. It's past time. And we need more truth to come out. We need all of the truth to come to light. We need all of the evil systems to fall. It's time. They have to crumble. Let every lie be revealed and let all of the truth come to light. Have our alliance, have our white hats, have our, whatever the good guys are behind the scenes, take over the media. We ask that the media of our country is taken over and forced to show the truth, and not just the media of our country, but the media worldwide, to show the truth, to show the people what's been done to them over the last several years. We've already had going on almost 3 years of this, and it is time. No more suffering can happen. Like, the truth must come out. So please let the truth come out. In Jesus, Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Yep. All right. Okay. Well, I have to run, but thank you so much.
Yeah, I do too. Really and that was a wonderful prayer. The only one little thing I'd add to that is that we call in the angel armies and ask them to remove all the dark forces off this planet for good.
Yes.
Yeah. All the darkness all needs to go now, like yesterday. Like now, get it out of here.
Yes. All the angel armies carry all the darkness off. And if we can all we all have permission to send it back to them. Any evil wished upon us, we can send it back to return to sender 100-fold.
Yeah.
Actually, Tamara did a little video and talked about this, like that.
Oh.
We all have the power to send it back, and we have the right, because the evil is so thick right now. Like, any evil done to us or perpetrated on us or brought to, send it back to them 100-fold.
I'm going to do that. That's awesome. I love it.
It's time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Love you all.
We'll do it again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Love you guys.